Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. A bit of a weird match preview today. For the first time this season I could sit down and preview a game without all the negativity, with a new direction at the club. Look, I don't know how much will change. We'll cut to that chase straight away. I don't know what to expect. It's a bit of a weird one. How much will John Kennedy actually change? That's the question. We'll talk about it all after the intro. Right then, of course, John Kennedy's in charge tomorrow. A new era will begin at Celtic, not quite yet, but it's something to be a bit more positive about. If you've been on the same bandwagon as me, if you've been on the Lennon out train since back in October, November time, then we've been waiting for this moment, and it kind of came unexpectedly. We've spoke about it all. If you've yet to hear my opinions on the departure of Neil Lennon and the future of the club, then make sure to check out the last couple of videos on the channel. We spoke about it in great depth in the podcast on Wednesday. We spoke about it a bit more yesterday in the 5 potential manager options for Celtic. There's a lot to talk about, and this game in particular, I think, is going to be increasingly more difficult to predict what we'll see now to the end of the season, and that starts tomorrow. How much will change with John Kennedy, considering he was part of the Lennon regime, considering he was his right-hand man, he was the assistant manager after all, he still would have had a kind of take on the game and a lot of input as to how Celtic were playing over the past few months. Neil Lennon, of course, was ultimately the man in charge. He was the man who was making the decisions, putting the team out, selecting the 11 every week. But Kennedy was there. And I won't hide away from the fact that the responsibility kind of does come down to the rest of the coaches too and the team. Look, there's got to be a shared responsibility to some extent, but I believe that, you know, when you get a change like this, you start to see positives, you start to see change, and I hope that starts tomorrow. Now, that's not me coming out and giving an outlandish statement that now we're going to go and win every game till the end of the season just because Lennon's magically gone. No, of course not, but I think it will give the players a lift. They've got something to prove. Players now have to show their worth between now and the end of the season. That's something that we can't hide away from, and I think the players won't hide away from. Who's going to be part of this next season, who ultimately wants to be a part of it. They'll go out and hopefully try their best to score some goals tomorrow and bring a bit of positivity in a week which will not just be, you know, for as much as us fans are saying that this is a positive, that Lennon's gone, there will be a negative on the training ground. There will be kind of an atmosphere there that they've lost Neil Lennon after the success they had under him last year. There will be a sort of feeling of animosity, I believe, amongst the players as to now where they go, and what the direction the team goes over the next few months. So they've got a lot to prove, they've got a lot to work for, and it's a chance for guys now to really get a chance in the team and show what they're worth. The assistant manager, John Kennedy, of course, as I've already mentioned, didn't have a great say, I'd imagine, in picking the 11 that started every week. So now there'll be a lot of players fancying their chances, I'd imagine, and I hope John Kennedy does give them those chances. Now, we spoke about on the podcast whether or not he'll start to use maybe some of the youth players, giving them a chance in the team. The likes of Karamoko Dembele is now the time to try and give him a run of games as his contract comes to an end. Players like Henderson, who's been on the bench, Klamala, Ayeti, who've struggled for game time. Will Kennedy now put them out and give them a shot? Barkas in goals, will Kennedy turn to him? Or will he just go with the kind of team that Lennon played in his last few games? After all, we won 5 games on the bounce, so maybe Kennedy will think to himself, well, that was a winning formula. For me, it's a chance now to go back to a system that allows us to play to our strengths. You know, we have James Forrest back in training, and of course that doesn't mean we're back in the team tomorrow, but will we start going for a winger type approach? Can the like of Dembele come in, maybe even utilise Christie on that right hand side? No matter, it might be quite useless, but I'd rather Christie on the right hand side and playing 3 attacking midfielders all in a similar sort of role. You know, you see Turnbull, Christie and Rogic all trying to move around the same areas. You know, it wasn't working, so now's a chance for Kennedy to kind of take that away, strip it back, and play players to a role that might suit the team a bit better and give us a more expansive type of play, because we've missed that wing play. So Kennedy has the opportunity now to make those changes and try and bring us into a position where we're more positive going into next season. Yes, there's recruitment to be done. Yes, there's probably a new manager to bring in too, but you know, he can start the setup for that, and he's been here for a long time. Players have ranted and raved. You've seen Kieran Tierney's tweet yesterday about how good a coach Kennedy is. I think he'd be naive to go and use the same formula that was failing for so long at Celtic. He'll want to make it entertaining. He'll want to make the best of himself over the next few weeks to make sure he has a place at Celtic next season. There's a lot there to speak about. Of course, you've got to take the positives with the negatives. This could very well just be even worse for Celtic. You know, the fact that we have to change even more now. It's a point now where me as a fan, I've accepted the fact that I just want to get to the end of the season. I want to be finished. Look, Rangers have won the league, we know that. I want us just to get to the end now and start the rebuild for next season, get back to winning ways. So there is every chance that Kennedy can also fail tomorrow and onwards. You know, it might not go the right way for him. It's very much up in the air. I don't know what to expect. John Kennedy has never managed a team in his life, and for as much as I might talk about him being a good coach and how well he worked under Brendan Rodgers, there is every chance that the pressure becomes too much. We've seen that for Lennon, the pressure became too much. So Kennedy now has to just look at what the expectations are of him to just get a positive end to the season, prepare us for next season and work with that. We need to continue the progression of players like Sorrell, Turnbull, give them chances, put them out in the park. I think Kennedy has to realise that, and I don't quite expect him to go out there and maybe just shove Scott Brown to the side completely because he's worked with Scott Brown for so long, but maybe it is a time to get rid of the old guard now, and give our guys a chance. Now, he'll have his own thoughts towards that, and tomorrow will be an indication of where we go. The fact it's the first game and it's came so quickly after the sacking of Neil Lennon doesn't allow a great amount of time for change, but we know we can win this game. We beat Aberdeen only last week, and yes, it might not have been the most convincing performances, but we've usually got a decent record and a good showing against Aberdeen. Over the past few years, we've been much better than Aberdeen when it comes to the games. The only game that I can really think of off the top of my head was a struggle was the 3-3 draw earlier in the season. Look, it's a game that we should be fancying our chances for. It's a chance just to bring some positivity back. On to the opposition, it's pretty much the exact same thoughts that I would echo from the last match preview I done before Aberdeen. They're in a position where the fans feel the same way, or what we did feel about Neil Lennon with Derek McInnes. They want something fresh, they want change. It hasn't quite gone to plan over the past few weeks, but they did win in their last game. They picked up 3 points after losing to Celtic only a matter of weeks ago. They could have very easily took points against us at Celtic Park the last time they visited. We slowed down, we started the game strong. We looked as though it kind of set the tone in the opening 15 minutes, half an hour, that we would go on to maybe score 2 or 3 goals and dominate the game, but we didn't, and Aberdeen could have really got themselves back into it. So they know what has to be done. The weaknesses are clear to see in terms of the Celtic point of view, so they'll look to exploit those again, I'd imagine, and it's very much, I think, a case of doing the same thing as what they've done last time. This time they don't want to concede early. I imagine from the kick-off they'll be a lot more compact at the back. They'll take a more defensive approach to ensure that doesn't happen, but I can assure you, as the game grows and we get into it a bit more, they'll grow into a more attacking style of play. They'll look to score goals, and they'll look to take advantage of the fatigue. Now the question is, how much fatigue will we see under Kennedy, or will Kennedy use that excuse in the press conferences or the interviews after the game? It'll be interesting to see that, the complexion between him and Neil Lennon after the game. Ultimately, I just want to see us go out and play the whole game as we did the first sort of half hour against Aberdeen in the last game. Finally, let's talk about the team and score predictions. Look, I think to predict a team, it's quite hard. We don't know what Kennedy's favoured personnel is yet. We don't know what system he's going to go with. We don't know if he's going to continue playing that narrow 4-1-2-1-2 sort of tactic, or if he's going to use wingers again. It's all very much a guessing game right now. Tomorrow will give an indication for future games as to what we'll see from Kennedy's sides. But I'm excited. I'm fully prepared though to sit and wake up tomorrow and then see at 2 o'clock that we're playing the exact same team. I'm fully expecting that to happen. But now with fresh blood, the coaching team with McManus as well, it is a time to get something new, to get something fresh, and I'll continuously say that until I'm let down. I would hope that we do go with the players who have played well rather than the players who are just kind of glued to the team sheet. I would like to see Sorrell start over Brown for talking sakes. I would like to see us return to having maybe El Younus on the left hand side, and for as frustrating as he is, maybe Christie on the right hand side for now. Maybe give Dembele a chance in the game, but it's all very much wishing. There's no substance to show that will happen as of yet. We need to see what Kennedy's team selection will be like. I would love to see Barkas returning. I would like to see Barkas return in goals now that we've got a new manager, and actually give him a run of games between now and the end of the season to judge whether or not we do or don't need a goalkeeper next year. It is very much, there's no point predicting an 11 here, because it could go either way. It could go with Lennon's tried and failed, or it could go with his own fresh way of things. It's a hard one. As for the score, I think we will win. I think the team will want to answer back to what has been a season of negative feeling and negative comments. I think they'll want to show John Kennedy that they're out to play for him. And I think John Kennedy will ultimately want to get off to a winning start. Look, I don't think he should be anywhere near the permanent job come the summer, but John Kennedy will know that there's a chance of it, and he'll want to show that he can be the man for that. He'll want to win games. And whether or not he's the right man or not, you can't dispute that in his mind, he'll be fancying himself. So he'll be wanting to go for wins, and I think we could do it tomorrow. Aberdeen haven't been anything special lately, and they've struggled, I think, with a couple of injuries as well. So let's just go for it. Let's try and win the game. I'm going to say 2-0 to Celtic. I'm hoping for a positive 90 minutes rather than 45 minutes of playing good football and 45 minutes of falling asleep. It's just a time for change. It is. It's a hard one to predict. It's the weirdest match preview I think that I've ever done. I know there's been a lot of weird ones this season because we've been in poor form and we've not been looking forward to games, but this one is genuinely just a lot of curiosity and amongst everything, a lot of speculation as to what can happen. It's going to be weird. I'm looking forward to it though. I'm excited. He spoke really well. I've enjoyed, if you've not already listened to his comments, John Kennedy, and speaking about things, you can see that the man knows his way about the club, and I guess, people say that was the problem with Lennon just because he knew the club and all that, but you could tell he's got an intellect behind him, and he want to do well, and I think he can do well. So 2-0 Celtic, my prediction. We'll just get beat in the same 11 starts. It's just going to happen, isn't it? Let's be positive. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.